Welcome to Real Estate Success DFW, the podcast where top producing agents from Dallas-Fort Worth come together to share their stories and strategies behind their success. I'm Shaune Corbett, your host, and with over 300 million sold in the local real estate market and the honor of being best of breed multiple times, I know what it takes to make it in this market. Each episode, we're going to dive into the world of real estate, learning from the very best in the industry. If you're ready to level up your game, we're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us, Real Estate Success DFW, my weekly podcast where I have really successful agents that are willing to share and help you in your business. This week we've got Todd Walters. How are you, Todd?
I'm better than good, Shaune. Thanks for the invite to be here. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
I appreciate you jumping on. Todd Walters is actually the founder and owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed, and he's one of the owners because I know they have investors and other things. But the most important thing is this is a brainchild that he created. It's super simple. All of you can learn specific tips that he addresses with dealing with and working in the market, the current market or future markets, and how to really effectively build your business without having to invest a lot. Most of my specialty is I build a business without spending money is one thing. I've got 3 tenets. It's duplicatable. Anybody can do it. We're going to do it without spending money. And it's teachable, something that we can teach anybody, right? So it's something that we can all do and learn from and grow from. And I really appreciate Todd jumping in and sharing some of his insights and stuff. He's sold thousands of homes, so we definitely want to take some notes on some of the things that he's done. Todd, what I always start with is, and I tease everyone, most of us don't grow up wanting to be a real estate agent or broker. Most of us want to do other things. So how did you get into real estate? That's usually a good starting point.
Yeah, everybody has a story if we just bother to stop and read it, right?
Yeah.
Mine's not really much different than others, I would think, but it does have some tragedy with it. When I was 19 years old, I just started college. And I'm working at a friend's. His dad owned this pizza delivery franchise business here in Metro Atlanta, and I was working at it while I was going to college. And I was like, "Hey, this looks like a pretty good gig." I went to my grandma, convinced her to loan me $50,000, and I bought one of these pizza delivery franchise businesses. Dropped out of college at 19. So now I'm an entrepreneur. I got my own business, but 3 years later, I'm out of business, bankrupt, and had to flash sell my house to keep it from getting foreclosed on. So I did what a lot of people do when things don't work out in life, Shaune. I got my real estate license. Yeah, no joke. I'm 22 years old. I was living in my father-in-law's basement because I didn't have a house anymore, and I just got married to my junior high and high school sweetheart, Christy. There I am in real estate. That's how it all started for me. And I went to a RE/MAX office, and in my first day there, the broker introduced me to another agent, said, "Hey, I think you guys can figure it out." And that agent's big idea was to jump on the phone, start cold calling. And so a couple of days into that, I'm like, what in the world have I got myself into here? This blows. How in the world is this going to get me out of my father-in-law's basement? I already had one business failure. Couldn't afford another one. I'm staring down this mountain of debt, get my grandma paid back and all that kind of stuff. And so it wasn't off to a good start, man. So crazy thing happened. I'm flipping through the MLS book. We didn't even have computers in the office, buddy. So I'm flipping through the MLS book. And I noticed in the MLS books, these listings that they had, it listed whether they were a non-escalating, non-qualifying, assumable loan or not. Now, for historical purposes, a long time ago, when you got an FHE and a VA loan, you could sell your house, but you could also sell the loan. It was assumable, and you didn't have to qualify for it. So my own house had one of those kind of mortgages. So when I flash sold my house, I just ran an ad in the newspaper and said, "Hey, non-escalating, non-qualifying, assumable loan, blah, blah, down, X amount of money each month. The house has all these, whatever, call Todd." So I had 25 buyers call me on my house when it hit the marketplace that one weekend, sold it to the second person through. So fast forward, no joke, 3 or 4 months later, I'm looking at the real estate magazine and I see that they're advertising houses with those kinds of, and it hit me. I was like, I wonder what happened to all the buyers that called me on my house. So I dig out my folder, I open it up, start looking at the Start looking at people that call me and calling them. Hey, my name's Todd. You called me on my own. I was selling it. It was a non-escalating, non-qualifying assumed loan, and I followed up to see if you'd buy it. And almost all of them said, "Yep, I want a house." But some of them said, "No, I'm still looking." I said, "I've got access to these non-escalating, non-qualifying assumable loans. Would you be interested in taking a look at some of them?" They said, "Yes." So I sold like 6 houses just like that, doing it that way. But then I'm out of customers. I got no more leads. So I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" So I just reran the ad. And I reran that ad, Shaune, for 2.5 years until it didn't work anymore. That's what got me started into it. But through that process now, I was still frustrated. I wasn't getting ahead. These were tiny commission checks on this thing and working day and night just trying to do that. So I was really frustrated, man. I walked into my broker's office about a year into the business, and he could tell I wasn't happy. And he said, "What's on your mind, Todd?" And I was like, "This business, it sucks. It blows. Like I'm working nonstop trying to get out of my father-in-law's basement and pay my family back, and I'm like going nowhere. Running an ad on my own house that I sold 2.5 years ago, just keep rejigging it to try to make it work." And he says, "You got to work hard if you want to get ahead." And so I stopped right there, and that hit me. This is a 60-year-old man who's the broker owner of this Remax office. I'm a 23-year-old kid, essentially. And I'm like, "Do you know anybody that works harder than me?" And he said, "No." So that was cool. That was good because that's something you can control, is just getting your butt out of bed every day and going out there and trying to figure things out, right? And at times you got to do that. You got to really get after it. He got annoyed with me and said, "What's your point?" I said, "My point is I really thought I could make $1 million a year selling real estate. That's why I got into this gig." He laughed in my face when I said that. Have you ever had anybody laugh at your goals or vision or dreams for your life, Shaune? I mean,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
that was the
Yeah. They
first
don't buy
time.
into what because they don't see you that
Yeah.
way.
That was the first time it happened to me. Now, I don't think that he was being ugly at all. He was a super nice guy. I just think it was projection. It's because he said no one does that. Now, in 1992, he's right. There was one person in the United States of America that made over $1 million selling real estate. His name was Marshall. He was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I did what I thought I should do. I picked up the phone and called him. And he told me a little bit about what he was doing. He invited me up to come up and shadow him for a couple of days. I got on an airplane, flew to Grand Rapids, Michigan, hung out with this guy for a couple of days, and I learned things that ran total contrary to what everybody else back around my neck of the woods there in Metro Atlanta in real estate and Remax and all that stuff were doing. Total different. It was almost like he made a list of what was normal and customary in the marketplace and was just doing the opposite. So I learned what a unique selling proposition was. I learned what direct response marketing was. Never heard of any of these things. And just started looking at processes and systems so that you could just do more without working more. That was a big game changer for me. Come back, put some stuff to work in my office, in my own business there. And within no time flat, I'm making $1 million a year selling real estate. The youngest person at the board of realtors, according to them, at that moment in history that had ever done such a thing. So it was all good, but I stayed with it now. I stayed with direct response marketing, which is basically attracting prospects without prospecting, reverse prospecting, you might call it, and stuck with those risk reversal offers, unique selling propositions like your home sold in 60 days. I'll pay you $1,000 cash. That was my first performance guarantee I ever used to market into real estate. That led
Well,
to,
let's get to that in a moment. So I want to come back just for a couple things. It's really important that we cover. So one of the things I had three tenets that I focus on. The third one was sustainability. Okay. You can't pick up the phone and make phone calls, cold calling every day for 3 hours for 20 years. You're having to reform new relationships over and over again. It's not really that sustainable. Most people aren't built that way. You might be able to do it for a couple of years, but you're going to wear yourself out. So I don't think that's sustainable. I like sustainability opportunities, right? I want to be able to do it. I want to be able to do it consistently and want to do it. And having an opportunity where people are reaching out to you is definitely a reverse opportunity. Most people think that we have to go find them, and you're looking at it and say, no, I want them to find me.
yeah, attraction.
Yes, where the conversation is they want me to work for them and not me convincing them for me to work for them. It's the opposite effect, and it's certainly a whole lot more positive and have a higher conversion rate. One
Yep.
other thing is if you want to be a millionaire, solve 1 million people's problem. And all of a sudden, everyone now, you're solving a problem. That's what you did earlier. The problem they had is they were looking for opportunities for a particular type of loan. And you say, great, there's a market for it. I'll go find those buyers and I'll bring them homes that qualify. I solve your problem and they pay you for it. That's just an
Yes.
early example.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Somewhere in that process, I learned a little bit more about the concept of leverage. And in real estate, we can work with anyone. You can work with investors. You can work with first-time buyers. You can work with move up people moving out of town, empty nesters move down. There's so many different opportunities. Banks, builders. It's almost endless. It seems like, and I think that somewhat is the problem for most people. There's a principle out there that says if you try to be all things to all people, you dilute your effectiveness. One of the things I got schooled on way early in my career was what sort of customer represents the best leverage. And why don't you build a business around that? So for me, it was buyers with a home to sell. Okay. They want to sell their home, go buy something else, which meant multiple transactions from one customer and leveraging the property itself to attract more prospects. And so that I got into, basically aligned almost everything, processes, the promotion, the profit model, and the people on the team here, just aligned all of it to the ideal customer. And that was a good move. It doesn't mean that we didn't do business with first-time buyers, investors, and other things. It just wasn't the core focus every day. And that filled the boat with an overflow of an ideal customer that represented more leverage. A couple of things on that might be really good for your viewers that I learned too is that multiple opportunity customers, like a buyer with a home to sell, versus an investor or a builder or a bank institution. Those are all multiple opportunity customers too. And a lot of people get locked into those. But see, those people, the builders, the investors, and the bankers, for example, like foreclosure accounts, those guys operate off of economics. Okay, it's purely economics, not emotion. Okay, so what's going to happen to the real estate agent is they're going to get squeezed. They become more commoditized working with those guys. But the buyer with the home to sell wants to move up and buy a bigger house, for example. It's based on emotion, right? They're trying to make a move to make their life better. That's the play, right? It's the American dream. So it's different. The mindset's different. So this concept of price elasticity, which is a real business concept in the business world. In other words, price is elastic. Okay, cost is only a factor in the absence of value. You don't know what the marketplace will or will not pay you for the product or service you have to offer until you let the marketplace decide based on the value that you offer. That really works for those kinds of customers. Okay, they're willing to pay a lot, for example, for certainty. If I could remove risk and sell certainty, it turns out they'll pay more money for that, which led to solving one of the problems I had early on, which was capitalization, trying to bootstrap the business. Like you said something really good. It's, hey, you help people or help them discover scaling up a business or growing a business without spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, quite frankly, that's really good because that's how every business is supposed to operate. You're not supposed to spend your own money, you leverage everything, other people's time, other people's money, other people's whatever to scale up a business. It's what, Elon.
Yeah, you should be offering the value add, not someone else wants to invest in us. That's great. That's the purpose, right? So we all have a place in the role. And if we're using our own money, we're losing that opportunity to build that relationship.
You're undercapitalized every day if you're doing that, if that's your business model. But that is the real estate industry business model. And there's no question. Yeah. So that's why there's so many that have scale problems. It's just philosophy. It's a mindset. It's what you learn when you get into the business. And that's what I learned is just, hey, make a list of what everybody else is doing, the majority, and don't do it. Really seek to legally and ethically disrupt that, find a different way. And that's been a good move, I think, in just about every industry. And we still hold true to those principles today.
Well, let me focus on one thing. When you do something like this and you make a business proposition to your audience, most people feel like they cut themselves off from other opportunities. And I always say, and you've heard this before, riches are in the niches. It's okay. And I talk to agents in general. This is outside of what you're talking about, where they might say, I was in the military. I really relate to people in the military. I said, then great. That might be a good niche for you. That doesn't mean you're not going to work with a first-time home buyer. It doesn't mean you're not going to work with a family member that has another family member that refers them over to you and they need to sell a house. You can still attract and you won't lose any opportunities. But if you just niche and your gene pool shrinks, you have a higher conversion rate on that gene pool than you will if you try to hit everybody. And I think people should really focus on a space that really connects the dots with them. That they talk like me, they act like me. We're going to have an easy conversion. I can say things to them. They're going to know what I'm saying. We're going to be relatable. And those make really easy conversions if you're for that opportunity. Your value proposition is you're looking for people that are needing to sell to buy. And that puts them, I haven't really heard it put that way. I've worked with builders and I've worked with investors. I've probably done more than 200 transactions just with investors alone. And they're very easy. I can sometimes sell houses completely by text, never even see the house, never have a conversation with them. And I did that a number of times, which is not something I teach. You get into a space, you know what they're looking for, they know what they need, and everybody knows what's going to happen. And then we can do the entire conversion through text. That's not normal. But I can be commoditized really easy. Okay, you did it for 10,000. I'm going to get somebody to do it for 5,000 and I'll get the same result. And that's the way they focus on it. I like that you talked about REOs or banks and investors and other people. They can squeeze you out and you're the first that has to take the cut because it's not an emotional opportunity for them. It's just a financial opportunity. That's a very interesting way to say. I hadn't heard it
Yeah,
that.
a lot of people don't realize that those guys are actually in the business. So it's it. I just discovered it was better to work with somebody outside of the business, like a buyer with a house to sell.
That's true. Yeah, they have less knowledge. Yeah.
You're working with investors, you're working with banks, you're working with builders. Guys are in the industry. They're in the business.
Yeah. And they already know all the numbers and they know where they can pull from if they have to because they've
they're
done
in
it
it.
before.
They're in it for the money. It's
Sure.
an economical decision.
Yeah.
Whereas the customers that we like probably the most are the ones that are in it for a lifestyle play, and you get to be a part of that. That's awesome. Like being a part of somebody's central part of their universe. Either you're going home or coming home. Everything happens in the home, and so being a part of that is fun. It's cool. It's awesome. And then you get to basically just dream up how to go about impacting that in a profound way. And that's awesome. So our way, my way, which is the nuts and bolts of our system, is to people have enough stress in their life, Shaune. They got enough going on with their family, their health, their work, their finances, and everything. They got enough going on. So if we can help a customer just totally remove worry from their home purchase and sale, just totally reverse the risk, we'll take on all the risk. So you don't have to, kind of thing. People are like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So in other words, certainty as a unique selling proposition is unique in the marketplace. And but we've been running these programs for a long time, and they work. So I'll give you an example. My favorite way to go about it is to take a unique selling proposition, which essentially is an offer. It's a position in the marketplace. It's an offer, but it's different and exclusive, hence unique selling proposition. It answers the question of why would I do business with you over and above anybody else or any other option, including what I'm doing right now or nothing at all. So when you can answer that question, you're answering it, it leads to a really good value proposition out there. For me, it was like, okay, number one, people would prefer to get offers on their home versus listing and hoping they get offers. Okay, so we already know that in the marketplace. So it's like, can we do that? If Shaune wants to sell his house, can we give Shaune today, before he even lists it, I don't know, 6, 10, 12 offers right now? And the answer is yeah, because those buyers are out there. But you've got to go build that thing in order to be able to do that. So we did that. So yeah, we can get you multiple offers. So here's a rule now. Let's say that you're a customer, you're a seller, you want to sell your house. There's an unwritten rule, Shaune, that you don't want to walk into somebody's house that you don't have listed without an offer that they'll take. Very important, because if you walk in with offers they won't take, you're probably not going to get their business. Yeah. When you've got their home listed, say, you have permission to walk in with offers they won't take. You just counter and work it out. There's a commitment there. But if you don't, so you got to walk in with an offer that they will take. So you can have multiple offers in the world, that's great. But if it's an offer they won't take, you're probably not going to get their business. So that led to guaranteeing price. So we're walking in with a bunch of offers. They may or may not be interested in some of these offers. They're REITs and they're iBuyers and other buyer groups and people on our database. That's cool. But so that led to, again, us guaranteeing the price of the home. If we don't get your price, we'll pay you the difference. And amazing program, been doing it for over 30 years. And it works and people like it. And so that led to the deal, but you still miss a piece. We don't want to list the home and hope it sells. So our guaranteed sell program, if the home doesn't sell, we'll buy it. totally reverses risk. So we can combine all three of those into one like grand slam offer. It almost becomes uncopyable in the marketplace, and just create a system, processes around that to be able to deliver it. You don't want to run around the marketplace saying you do things and you don't. And that's called a liar. It doesn't work very well. And that's it. But there's one underlying thing that makes all of this amazing. And it's making sure that the customer is getting what they want. Okay. So I'll give you an example. So let's say I'm walking into your house. The starting point, and you're calling because we got those offers, but the starting point is like, why? Shaune, you got to really get home here, big dog. This is amazing. Oh my gosh. Why on earth would you want to sell this thing and go do something else? And then you proceed to tell me your story, like your vision for your life. We write that down. Okay. And that's what we're supposed to get. That's what we deliver. Our job is to deliver the why
The why,
is
yeah.
making the move.
Right.
And so that's what most agents don't do. They're just like, I'm going to sell your house. I'm going to help you find another house. And it becomes about that versus delivering on the why they're even doing it. And to me, that's the difference maker. That's also where the 5-star reviews are. So one of the things, just to wrap that up, one of the things I like to tell real estate agents at our company is, okay, what if the commission check that you get is you can't do anything with it? What if the commission check is like a trophy? You can't pay your bills with it. You can't buy food with it. You can't put your kids through college with your commission checks. It's worthless. It's a measurement of success, but you can't use it as a currency. What if the currency that you could pay your bills with was a 5-star review? And if you didn't get a 5-star review, you can't eat, you can't sleep indoors. All right. So if that were true, if you had to get a 5-star review in order to live, would your business be different? And everyone says it would. I'm like, go build that. Make the 5-star review the currency. So that was a really good idea we had many years back. It was like, so what does that look like? But I think that's an entrepreneur's job, Shaune, is to question, challenge the status quo of things on a pretty continuous basis. And we got a pretty good group of leaders around us at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty that are good at that concept, challenging the status quo.
Let me ask on the 5-star review. So there's several places we can go. We can do Zillow, you can do Realtor.com. I've been doing this a long time and I've got reviews everywhere. You could be on Facebook, creating a Facebook, one of those, what do you call it, page? I guess they call it pages. They used to call it business, whatever. And then you could post reviews there. And then you have Google. So one, where do you put your 5-star reviews? And two, what would you say would be a good number to shoot for where you have credibility now? And is that the way you think about it? Am I over asking?
No, but no, that's yes and no. I'll give you an example. First of all, what most people think, about 5-star reviews is something that happens at the end. If I do a good job, I get a 5-star review. And the answer is no. It's always the inverse. The 5-star review happens in the beginning. So when I first sit down with you, just to reiterate, I first sit down with you, hadn't done anything. You're going to tell me why you're even thinking about selling. What's going into this? What do you feel like has to happen for you to get what you want? And it gets documented. All right. And that's the 5-star review play right there. Just the fact that I'm asking you why, and you tell me, and I document it, write it down in front of you on the actual paperwork, listing and buyer paperwork in front of you. And then it's like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. We are going to get you that. If we do that, is it okay? Like we get a 5-star review and they're going to say, yeah, you get me that. No problem. It's done. So
You
that's
get a commitment. You get a commitment early on.
that's
Yeah.
all you talk about. That's all you do. That's what we do. And it's easy to get sidetracked through all that stuff because of all the stuff that goes on in a real estate transaction. But that's the process. It's to get that 5-star review. And in the course of doing that, you become more valuable in and of yourself. And when you're more valuable, you can earn more. You can get paid more. You can justify your fee. And most real estate agents say you're well underpaid.
So accomplishing their why is the reason they're going to give you a 5-star review.
Yeah, it happens in the
Start
beginning.
with that day one.
Yep, you got it, man. That's it right there. Now you're going to get more. And it's okay. Where are they getting posted out there? Obviously, people should be focusing on where the majority of people go, where the eyeballs are. So you got Zillow, which is the most trafficked website in human history, a real estate website. Google, of course, which makes sense today. But by the time somebody watches this podcast in the future, I don't know. There may be other places, but that's the job. Where are the eyeballs? Where's the traffic? Where are the people? I need the world to know I'm different, and we help people achieve their vision and via solving their problems. That's the story that these 5-star reviews need to tell, but they need to tell them in a unique way. I'll give you an example. Most people on these reviews that they're getting, Shaune, you'll see them, dude. They're not very good. They're like, Shaune's amazing. If you're thinking about selling your home, you should call Shaune. That doesn't really do anything for me. A better way to do it is to get the customer story. What was the problem you had? And why weren't you able to solve it? How did you find out about me? What led to you hiring me? And how did you benefit from that? What was the outcome? And they just fill in the blank on it, and that becomes the review. Something like, oh my gosh, we had our home on the market with a real estate agent for 4 months. We got no offers. It wasn't selling. They said they could sell it, but it wasn't happening. And we really needed to move because my husband had been relocated to a new job out of state. He's commuting back and forth. It was becoming a big nightmare. We needed to get our kids into school. Oh, we were at our wits' end. And then we saw this ad from Todd. And it said that if the home didn't sell, he would buy it. So we called them, of course. And boy, are we glad we did. All right. Todd came over, and when he did, he brought over 14 offers. Okay. And we didn't like some of those offers, but one we did, and where he would guarantee our price. And boy, am I glad we chose that one, because 2 weeks later, we were under contract for 101% of the asking price, and our home sold. Okay. And you know what we've done now? We're living in our new home out of state. My husband's loving his new job. The kids are in school, making new friends. Life is good again. Now, that is the 5-star reviews that people need to get out of people. It takes some work to do that, but it starts in the beginning when you write it up, when you first sit down with the customer on their whole vision of why, versus trying to chase it down at the end. So it's a process, not an event, these 5-star reviews. And then, of course, they just get published on these where the eyeballs are, like we talked about.
Sure. Yeah. So do you assist them in the story process where
100%.
So you go back and rewrite their why, and then some of the challenges that we were able to overcome, and then the emotional impact it had on their family at the end, and all those type of. Can you put that in a framework, and then they write it from that? Maybe a little coaching kind of thing where you.
No, it's a system. Yeah, it's a system. Everything in the business should be a system. Otherwise,
let's talk about that. So most people overwork and they don't work smart. And working smart has to do with having systems in place to help you alleviate some of the stressors or things that you're hassling and doing that aren't going to pay you. We talk about what can you do to make the most money per hour. That's a general rule. Most agents don't have these conversations. But you and I think maybe think in a little bit different way. What can we do to increase how much we make per hour? And running around showing houses or writing contracts or doing back end stuff or posting on social media, we make nothing per hour, zero. So what can we do in order to maximize our dollar per hour? And getting 5-star review is certainly a value add proposition that should come from the agent. As an example, talk about people that overwork instead of utilizing systems, because I think that's a core value that you talk about.
Yeah, I think the challenge in all of that is like when you get into real estate, there's a model. And the majority of real estate agents just adopt that model. And it's a failing model. We don't have to sit here and debate that. 90% of real estate agents quit the business every 5 years.
Yeah.
The average income is $53,000. 95% of everyone makes under 300,000. That sold a home. 70 some odd, 72, 71%, something like that. Didn't even sell a home in 2024. These are horrific numbers. And I don't believe it's because real estate agents are lazy. These are self-starters, commission-based people. Know that they're not guaranteed anything to get into this industry.
Sure.
It's getting connected to that, quote, those norms and standards. And I would encourage everybody to look at that as the enemy. And it comes with a model. So when I say it's pretty easy to be successful in real estate, it's basically, what is everybody else doing? What is that model? And how can we go about maybe doing the opposite? And that gap from this is what everybody does and this is the opposite, that gap is a system. That's it. And once you understand that a system is a predictable way of doing things, and that a predictable way of doing things typically has moving parts. Let me give you an example. Let's say that when you were small, when we were little, I don't know if you like broke open like a watch or a clock to see how it worked. But when you do, you'll notice inside of it has 3 little wheels that turn to make the big wheel turn. That's a system. Okay, so if everyone understands that 1 is a great number in marriage, but is a failing formula in business, okay, you're on the right track to understanding what a system is. A
Right.
system is going to have 3 to 5 moving little parts that make the big part work without your involvement. So the reason most people still are a lot involved in the processes of their business is because they just haven't come full circle with those little wheels that turn that make it work without their involvement. But when you sit down, if you just sit down for any length of time and just start thinking about how not to do things, but it still gets done, then you start to really see clearly, you should be able to see in your mind how those things can fit together and get done. In other words, hey, if money and time was no object and you had to get this done, but without or with a little bit of help from someone, how would you do it? And you can set up any sort of process or system to work predictably without your, especially in today's world, dude, with the technology and artificial intelligence and stuff. That's why it drives me crazy that real estate. That's why I'm doing this podcast with you. I don't like real estate agents working so hard because it limits the number of people they can help.
No, it's true. And one of the big thing, if you're hustling without any type of proper systems, you're going to cap what you can even make anyway. There's only so much you can do and so much time in the day if you don't have anything that's consistent, repeatable, or even potentially scalable. And the only way to reach that point is having systems in place in order to be able to do it. I certainly can't do a podcast and be in the top 50 at EXP selling real estate over the 85,000 agents if I didn't have systems in place. So very important to be able to establish that. And that's for everyone. I did read a fascinating stat. You were going along the line, you were talking about 300,000, 95% or less. So I went on the Bureau of Labor Statistics and they were showing that only 3% of agents and this is a few years back, were making like 150,000 or more GCI. Okay. And it's a little different from the way you were looking at it. But at 3%, that means even at 3% of the entire group, 150 is not enough for me to raise a family and pay the broker and pay all my expenses. I got 4 kids. I would be bankrupt. And I would be bankrupt making 150,000 GCI. I would. So to me, if that the majority are not even earning a real livable wage that the family can live on, then we definitely have a big opportunity for agents to figure out a better way to do it and not have
Yep.
the high turnover and have a sustainable business that's enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know?
So, yeah, when most people get into real estate, even today, they're obsessed with learning how to sell real estate. And that's just been my takeaway from interviewing agents, right? I need to learn how to sell real estate. And I'm like, no, you better learn how to get customers. If you don't have customers,
You're unemployed if you don't have customers.
you got nobody to sell. You don't need to know how to sell real estate,
Yeah.
but you better figure that out. What is your mechanism or system or process or marketing system that's going to bring in prospects, and you better get good at that. Yeah. So I encourage everyone to like learn like how to do that but put some rules on it. Okay. So for example, you and I are on the same page for sure with what not to do, like cold prospecting.
Oh, can I talk about that just for a moment?
Yeah.
So you brought up something. You actually went and worked for a Remax. This is back in the early 90s. Things are obviously changed a lot, but some things haven't. A lot of them still teach a lot of these core things. And I didn't work for a broker, so no one taught me how to sell real estate. No one taught me how to be a buyer agent or be a listing agent. And I did what I thought would make sense for the clients and for agents that decided they wanted to join me. I wasn't even trying to attract them, but over time I ended up with about 10 or so when I was running my own brokerage. And I didn't train anyone on how to do cold lead generation because I didn't know how to do cold lead generation. I didn't do FISBOs or postcards or things like that. I worked my sphere. And that's just where I went with my business. I didn't think about the value proposition or any of the things that you went above and beyond where I was going. But it worked out for me because I get a sphere lead every business day of the week for the last 3 years when I hyper focused on my sphere. So I don't have to convert anyone. I don't have a listing presentation. I don't have a buyer presentation. People call me because I'm going to work with them, not because I have to sell them. And that's the space that I like and where I prefer to work. So I definitely relate to that. I wanted to say one other thing on agents. So we've talked about newer agents and maybe what not to do or how to be a better chance of building a sustainable business. What we haven't talked about is agents that maybe they're at that 2, 3 transactions a month, right? and they want to get unstuck. They want to progress. Maybe they want to get a million GCI, and they're at a place, and where they're at, there's a gap there. They're not able to get to that 8 to 10 transactions a month, which is what pushes you over that $1 million GCI opportunity. So what would you say to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. All right, so I got a two-part answer. All right, first of all, we have to decide what kind of business we want. In other
Right.
words, do you want a job or do you want a business? Okay, and it's two different things. A lot of real estate agents think because they got a business card, they got a business website, they got a business. And but the definition of a business, according to Michael Gerber in his book, The E-Myth, he says, look, if your business depends on you, it ain't a business. That's a job. Okay, and so immediately, if you're good at what you do, like you're really good at helping people solve their problems, this is just Todd's opinion. I believe that you're obligated to go help more people. And then people look at him and say, wait a second, Todd, I can't help anymore. I'm going burning the candle both ends. I can't help any more people. So it doesn't matter. You're good at it. You need to replicate that and go help more people solve their problems. All right. What if Mother Teresa said, I can't help anymore? So for piggybacking on her story, very great story, at one day, she's at her wit's end. She goes, the problem is too big. There's too many orphans and widows out here that then I can get to. So what did she do? Then she made a conscious decision to stop helping them. This is very important for everybody to know. She was good at it. She saw the problem and she saw clearly how she could solve it. She goes, I can help a lot more people if I'm not the one doing all the helping. That was it. So she turned her job of none into a business and she changed the world. She became the #1 fundraiser in human history at that time and leveraged that money to an army of volunteers and almost single-handedly solved that problem on the streets of Calcutta in that part of the world. And we're still talking about it today. So it's the same thing for real estate agents. You got to decide like what you want here. Do you want a job or do you want a business? If you want a real estate job, it's going to be an income roller coaster. Okay, because you're going to get customers, you're going to work with those customers, and then you're going to sell those customers and you got to start over. So it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster as there's no leverage in the job. The consistency of it is just the ebbs and flows of it. I'm not being critical of it, just being factual. If you want a business, then you instantly start thinking about leverage in order to go help more people. So how many homes could you sell if it didn't depend on you? All right. So again, if you're good at it, then the sky's the limit. And you can leverage it as much as you want to with systems, processes, and attracting customers with really good offers. So that's the first piece. Do I want a business or do I want a job? And I'm not being critical of either one. I'm just saying the guys that have the business mindset can go help more people and they're going to have more leverage. So if you're a real estate agent with, look, I just want to sell one home a month and I'm good with that. You're going to get beat in the marketplace a lot. So hopefully you've got a good enough sphere and you've got a good enough number of people that you can exercise in there. But even those people, okay, will go and do business with someone else if they have a superior offer than you. Okay. And it's hard to beat. We got multiple offers for your home right now. Don't need to list it. We'll guarantee your price or pay you the difference. And if your home doesn't sell, we'll buy it. That's hard to beat. So in other words, competitors may be hoping like, I hope my sphere doesn't find out about that thing. And I'm like, no, you go do that too. Because it's only logical. That's what most of us want to be certainty. So that's what I advocate for. But you got to decide whether you want a business or job in order like to make the moves on that. Because one of them is
Sure.
is a thing of leverage, and the other one requires a lot less leverage, and that sort of thing. But I'm an advocate, man. If here's why I want people watching to go do more, to go help more people. All right. Number one, if you're good at it, you're obligated to, like I said. Plus, it's going to lead to more income. And when you make a lot more money, Shaune, you're going to give more of it to your local church, and you're going to give more of it to charities and causes that you support. And you become a fixture in your family now for people coming to you that need help. There were things that you couldn't do before. Being in that position, you're able to change more lives due to the amount of leverage. All right. So that's why I'm an advocate for it and push people in that direction. But I do understand having a business versus a job is not for everyone. Yep.
Sure. No. And so we've got in down below when I have this on YouTube, I'm going to have links for your YouTube channel, your TikTok, your Facebook, and your Instagram. I'll go ahead and connect with all of those as well. And then you have the Millionaire Agent Masterclass. Is that a weekly masterclass?
That's a really good, cool thing that we do. I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, weekly, I host a 3 hour masterclass where we walk people through our system, which includes system for getting customers, a system for converting those customers to high paying clients, and a system for leveraging their satisfaction to repeat. And then all of those processes for scaling up to a super profitable sales team business, which is what we're really good at. So I do that masterclass to share, educate, and help. And we don't ask for anything in return, but some people like it enough to where it's like, hey, I want to do something with you. I want to be part of your home sold. Maybe I want to own one of those. And so that's been a good move. It's just the basic law of sowing and reaping. It's, hey, how much can I give away? And doing that, some of that seed falls on pretty good ground, buddy. And we've been able to connect with a lot of really good broker owners and agents around the country and continue to do that. So I'm an advocate for it because a lot of people think you're doing these things. Like, no, a business doesn't work that way. Okay. Today's world, you got to do what you're doing right now. Okay. You want to give as much as you can. We have a hard enough time, Shaune, just getting our broker owners and the agents to implement the system. I'm not worried about people out there in the marketplace. Oh my gosh, they're going to take your stuff. No, go and educate, teach, help, learn, add value. And in doing so, you're going to be someone that people want to learn from and hang out with and gain from. It's the ultimate leadership play. Selfless serving, I guess would be the better way to say it. So I appreciate you bringing that up. One thing in all of that, though, that probably matters. Most people have heard of Jay Abraham. Some people probably haven't. You go look him up. I attribute this quote to him. He says, there's only three ways for you to grow your business: increase transactions, increase the income per transaction, increase the number of times people come back and buy from you. So if that's true, which I believe it is, then we need a system that will do all three of those simultaneously in order to scale. So the thing that's overlooked by
Not scale, but grow. Scale is the systems, right? But it will increase volume from three different income sources that all increase the business. But keep going.
Yep. So the thing that's overlooked by most people is, like I said earlier, they're obsessed with, I need more leads, I need more leads. And they'll do anything to get leads. And I'm like, yeah, I think the problem is capitalization. So when I ask people, or they'll just flat out want to debate me on it. And they'll say, Todd, you don't understand. You're out of touch. And if I could just sell more houses, I would have more money. And I'm like, okay, so why aren't you selling more houses then? And they're like, I don't have the money. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's like every business's problem. You need money. It's a capitalization issue. So what do? We need to fix that. All right. So price is elastic, as I said earlier, price elasticity. So here's a good way to set this up for everyone. I got my Apple phone right there. Okay. So let's say you and I, Todd and Shaune, are sitting on the board at Apple. We're part of the board there. And then all of a sudden we discover that the CEO and the leadership team are not testing price in the marketplace. I can assure you what me and you and the other board members would do. We would fire that CEO just like that. Can you imagine a super successful business, Home Depot, Apple, like you keep going, Amazon, doesn't matter. Can you imagine these businesses not testing price in the marketplace? It's the job of the leadership team at every single successful business is to find out what the marketplace will and will not pay for the service and product that it has to offer. And when you do that, you discover, oh my goodness, what I bring to the marketplace is even more valuable than I thought. All right. But it's the thing that almost no, and a very small percentage of people do it. The majority of real estate agents and brokers out there, they have no concept of price elasticity or discussion of it. So I learned a long time ago, it's okay. So we've got a pretty good offer. So for buyers, we'll guarantee you access to homes that you can't find on the internet, unlisted off-market homes. And if you're not happy with the home you buy, we'll buy it back. All right. So let's pause there. What's that worth? What would the marketplace be willing to allow us to get paid for that? And the answer is we don't know. We don't know. We need to go find out. If you got a really good offer, go find out what the marketplace will and will not pay for it and test it, test price in the marketplace. And so that's all I've done. That's all we've done. That's how we end up with averaging 4.5% on buyer sides because cost is only a factor in the absence of value. And then when you get stuck at a particular price point and you discover like it's still not enough money for me to reinvest back into business for people, infrastructure, allow for failure, research and development, and marketing so that it works without me. When you get there, it's I need to go test price. So you add more value and find out what the marketplace will be. So that's all that Todd's done over the years, being a real estate agent, now as a CEO of a pretty sizable company and growing, is it's our duty is to find out what the marketplace will and will not pay for the product and service we have to offer, and we let them decide. And that's led to the ability to fix just about every single real estate agent and broker's money problems. And money fixes money problems. So I'm a big advocate of that. I would like to see everybody here watching this podcast, buddy, to give themselves a pay raise. Go find out what the marketplace will and will not pay. Don't settle in on that commoditized rate of 2.53% average according to Real Trends. That is not going to solve your money problems.
Okay? Yeah, if your value proposition to the buyer is high enough, then the limit isn't going to be the traditional amount.
But we have to let the customer decide that.
Yeah. I love it, Todd. We pushed it all the way past my traditional inning boy. I appreciate you. We could talk about this for hours. Lots of good information for those that would like to continue to hear about what Todd is talking about. He has the Millionaire Agent Masterclass. You can jump in there. You'll see me up there on the class as well, asking him hard questions, making him uncomfortable as much as I can. And we're going to learn together. So I appreciate you jumping in with me, Todd. For those out there that enjoyed the podcast and would like to see more content, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll continue to send you the latest. Every week I bring out a new episode. Todd Walters is this one, Your Price or Your Home Sold Guaranteed opportunity. I think that's a great opportunity for all you agents out there. And until next week, have a high performance week. Thank you. That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.